Look, I was raised by a single mom. If it wasn't for my mom, my dad died when I was 10. If it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't I would not be who I am today. I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Welcome to this week's edition of She Crypto.
Yeah, we've got a crane machine as well as like a digital experience.
I'm really just a crypto nerd at the end of the day.
I appreciate the connotation.
I really found that to be mind-blowing. But I know you have a lot going on, and
You have a lot going on. You have a lot going on too. So, and your community's fantastic. I love the diversity you're bringing to the space and the people that you're inviting in. They're definitely nicer to look at than most of the guys in the Bitcoin space. And
well, it's been it's been really cool to get women to talk, because one thing I'm learning is that a lot of them just don't, even top executives in crypto companies, they're kind of scared to come in and talk, so I want people to learn from women, and so I'm trying to encourage more women to come on, but also I want them to learn from men in the industry like you, because I mean, you're doing really big things, so we have to learn from you too.
It's a joint effort. It's a community effort. So, I learn more from my wife and kids. Look, I was raised by a single mom. If it wasn't for my mom, my dad died when I was 10. If it wasn't for my mom, I wouldn't I would not be who I am today. I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And then I had two older sisters raise me. So the influence that women have on the world is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that because you're a woman or because you have a woman's audience, but without women, we're not here, period. Full stop.
True.
So
True. And I'm the oldest of 7.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of in a way, I feel like a mom, even though I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I've always been kind of helping to educate my siblings and stuff like that through the years. And yeah, but
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And so at this point, I was reading your net worth is almost $2 billion, which is amazing. And then you have a portfolio of 5 billion, correct? Correct?
We have several companies. The real estate portfolio is 5.2 billion. It's got about $2 billion of debt on it. So we're very we're well capitalized in our real estate stack. And then we have a health company that does about $150 million a year in revenue, a consulting company that does about the same, and then an education business that does almost the same. So those companies have no debt on them at all, or very little, if any. And they're cash businesses that have been really the top of the funnel for my other businesses. What I do is I provide educational resources. When YouTube and Facebook popped up back in 2010, somebody showed it to me. I embraced it. I was 52 years old at the time. And I just embraced social media as a way to educate people. I've always been an educator and a teacher. I'm the youngest of 5. So, and everybody was 5 years apart. So my older brothers, there was enough distance to where they don't want to, help the little brother. It wasn't cool, to be with the little brother. He was too young. And so I always promised that if I ever got in a position, I was going to help other people with the hacks and the tricks and the gimmicks and the shortcuts, that my older siblings had. And so that's what we do. We educate a lot of people online through YouTube and TikTok and talking about money, finance, business. And in doing that, I go to a lot of rooms where other people, Kellyanne, are talking about finance. And that's where about 4 years ago, I ended up in a Bitcoin room where there was a debate. What was better, real estate, Bitcoin, or stocks? And so I ended up in this debate, kind of trying to defend real estate, but really walking away from that conversation and say, why not have all three? What if you could have all three in one investment? That would be the perfect investment.
I just did something that was an analysis not too long ago of Birkin bags, real estate, and Bitcoin.
Yeah, beautiful.
So yeah. So yeah, that's really cool. And I have seen you in some of the rooms on X too. I think we've been in there, and you just came in, and I know people love hearing you, when you're speaking in a room there. You're always dropping gems
But
and actionable advice. Yeah.
yeah, well, most
So
of the time I'm going in those rooms because I want to learn something. Like I have learned so much online. I mean, I know social media gets a bad beef, but there's like if you go there with the right intentions and you go there with purpose, like I've gone into those rooms. I've gone into critical race rooms. I've gone into rooms where it's predominantly black to learn about, racial issues and how other people feel walking into rooms, and the Bitcoin rooms and miner rooms and like NFTs. When NFTs were big, I'm like, what is this? So I'd go into a room and just sit and listen for an hour and a half while I'm doing something else to try to pick up a little piece of data here or there. To start thinking for myself, what's true for me about what's going on in the world, and how can I learn something from other people?
Yeah. And that's how I learned about crypto. Just being on Twitter spaces during lockdowns and just listening, and so definitely can learn a lot there. So my one thing that I wanted to ask you about is the new fund and how that works, and how people can get involved. And so from what I understand, it's 10x Boca Bitcoin real estate.
Yeah, so we found a piece of real estate. I buy large apartment complexes, just to back it up for the audience. These are typically very disciplined trophy purchases. We buy from institutions, massive real estate. I'm not talking about a single family home or a small complex. I'm talking about, in this case, it was 366 units. I'll send you the pictures of it so you can insert it in the interview. 366 units in Boca Raton, Florida, which is, if you don't know Boca's some of the wealthiest, biggest money in the country lives there. This is Maine and Maine, as good a location as you could possibly get. We bought it out of bankruptcy from Blackstone. It was a distressed seller, but a perfect asset, contrary to maybe a distressed asset. This is not a distressed asset. This was a great asset. It took 17 years to build it. And we bought it out of bankruptcy for $235 million. I wrote a check for it, closed 10 days after being awarded the deal, with the purpose to invite my audience to come in and take a part of it. I didn't plan on owning the whole thing for the whole time. I'll basically write a check, fund a deal, and then tell my audience about it and share it with them, democratize that asset. At the time of closing, I think it paid almost 5% cash flow. No big deal. But what we did was, for this kind of real estate, 5% is actually a very good return on day one to be able to buy an asset in this kind of location below replacement cost. We were about $70 million below what it would cost to rebuild it today. So we know that's the upside on the asset. But rather than just doing a simple real estate deal, in addition to the 235, I went and bought another, in addition to that, I bought 800 plus pieces of Bitcoin and married the two together, and then backfilled or fundraised for 335 million rather than 235. We actually stacked the two together, put a company around it, LLC, that's protected, and then allow the partners to come in and fund not just the real estate, but also $100 million worth of Bitcoin. And what you get with that is you get an old world asset, you get a real world asset, real estate that's been around thousands of years, and you combine it with this digital asset that's very liquid and doesn't really, take up space or time. And you put the two together and you're going to get a return that would go from a stable 12 or 15% annualized to maybe 30 or 35% annualized. You really get the best of two worlds. And it's attracting, Kellyanne, it's attracting people that don't really know about Bitcoin, but they understand real estate and they want exposure to Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was really cool when I heard about it. And I did see the chart and expected growth. So basically, as Bitcoin keeps growing, there's more and more money. Sorry, my cat is like making an appearance back here. Just
Yeah, that's cool.
See something? I don't know. I have like a thing over there.
I didn't see it. Yeah, what happens is the real estate,
this chat.
real estate provides a stability. So the real estate at 235 million over the next 5 years, that will, as the NOI, the property grows, the net operating income of the property grows because of rents, the value of the property goes up. Real estate's a very stable, slow, boring, constant, just kind of a grind out. As rents grow, slowly grow because of inflation, and it benefits, by the way, to printing money. It benefits from inflation. So that's why so many wealthy families have money invested in real estate. So many tech guys end up with so much of their net worth dropped into real estate because they want to stabilize. They don't want to be in the stock market where paper's moving up and down. Real estate's very, very stable, and it cash flows, and it does one other thing that Bitcoin doesn't do is it provides a tremendous tax write-off. So this property will provide about a $40 million, maybe $50 million tax write-off at purchase. Then what we did was stack the Bitcoin on top of it, which is instant liquidity, anytime, 24/7, 365, sometimes too much, too fast, a lot of volatility. And we're combining these two asset classes. The Bitcoin does not cash flow, and it does not have a tax write-off. So what you do is you're bringing, basically it's a yin yang kind of like superpowers together of one asset that's very stable and one that does this, one that you can't move because it's so massive, and one that literally can be moved at any time, one that cash flows, one that doesn't, one that appreciates very fast and can drop very fast, and one that doesn't do that. So you're bringing two like an old world and a new world asset together. This is our 12th fund that we've done this year. We're going to bring these 12 LLCs together, fully funded, and bring this to the public markets and go and bring it public so people can actually own shares in it. Back to that earlier thing I said about what's better, real estate, Bitcoin, or stock. Put all three together and you have a trifecta.
I think that is really cool because, and especially for people who don't maybe understand Bitcoin, but they want to get into it, and then, it's basically managed for them.
Yeah, and we have in addition to that, we basically took a piece of real estate that cash flows 5% a year, and this is best in class real estate. Like, this is not just another piece of real estate, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's very, very important that the real estate be Class A, great location real estate, because you want something irreplaceable, much like the Bitcoin, by the way. While there's only 21 million pieces of Bitcoin, that Boca deal, where it's located on Meisner in Boca, Maine and Maine, it is irreplaceable. It is one of one. It's probably more rare than the Bitcoin itself. Okay, there will never be another asset in that particular location ever again. And the fact that it cash flows at 5%, when we added the Bitcoin, the cash flow is still 3%. So like our investors, that don't understand Bitcoin, I'm like, look, would you rather 5% and just the real estate, or 3%, the real estate and exposure to Bitcoin? And so every time the Bitcoin moves, $1,000, we're making almost $1 million because of the number of shares, a number of pieces of Bitcoin that we have. The other thing that the real estate and the Bitcoin have in common is that both of them are controlled by the most important factor, which is number of units. In Bitcoin, the price is one thing, but the number of units of Bitcoin that you have is probably more important than the price. If it ever gets to $1 million or 3 million or 13, the question will not be, what did you buy at? The question will be, how many units did you have? How many Bitcoin do you have? And so that's what we're doing with Doors too. This is a big complex. It's 366 units. Every time the rent moves just $25, this is the power of real estate. It's providing, let me just do this math for you real quick. 366. And there's so many women that would benefit from being in real estate. You guys are going to inherit all the money. Like, there's going to be like $75 trillion that gets transferred to women here in the next couple decades.
Yeah. I know that's what you were talking about until at the Bitcoin conference was just,
it's going to be,
you're basically saying the women end up with the money.
You end up with all the money.
So we need to know what to do with it.
Yeah. The problem is, about 83% of all women's assets are sitting in cash accounts. This is a disaster. Because if you guys end up with all the money, and by the way, you should, but you don't know what to do with it, that's a problem. And this is why there's very few women in real estate, by the way, and there's very few women in Bitcoin. I'm not to be sexist, but it's just the numbers, right? And the reason is it's work. It's a lot. There's a lot of work, and there's a lot of some of it's a little bit complicated. But leaving your money in cash accounts or across a mutual fund is not, to me, the best thing women could be doing with their money. One, you don't want to be in cash. Okay, you're over complicating. I'm going to need 90 days of funds. No, you're probably never going to need 90 days. Okay. What you need is your money invested, providing cash flow, and the cash flow. Then your question should be, what am I doing with the cash flow? So I'm not just buying Birkin bags with it, because the Birkin bag may be a good investment, but it's more likely you're just going to pass it on to your kid, and your kid 30 years from now may not want the Birkin bag. They may see no value in it.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, they need to make the money work for them instead of just letting it, sit there. And I thought that was an interesting stat. And I did some research on it after you told me about that at the conference, because I didn't realize it was like you said 83% of women just basically stick their money in the bank.
Money market,
and it just
cash account. Yeah. And you think you're earning money, but you're not. Even if you're 4%, I have a friend that they got a Morgan Stanley account. He was looking at putting money in this Boca project that we have. I said, how much money do you have in Morgan Stanley? He's like $11 million. I said, what's it earning? He's like 375. I said, no, it's really earning 225. He's like, no, it's earning 375. I looked this morning. I said, no, after taxes, it's earning 2.25. After inflation, you're losing money. And he's like, yeah, but it's liquid. I'm like, yeah, but so what is liquid, dude? It's liquid and it's disappearing. You need cash flow. People need cash flow. Now, to some point, you end up with enough cash flow. You're like, okay, what am I going to do with the extra cash flow? And the way to create real wealth is not to spend earned income. The way the wealthy actually create real wealth is they take all their earned income. They invest all of it, not part of it, all of it. They have no money left over to improve the quality of living. And they only improve the quality of living from the investments they make when they cash flow. The passive income, the passive income, not the earned income, is how they go buy the Birkin bag. So when you want to do something stupid, just always do it out of passive income, never do it out of earned income, and never do it from your capital account. You don't want to draw down your investments. And I would just tell people, you don't want liquidity. The banks want you to be liquid. This is what banks have convinced women of. They scare you. They do this to everybody, but. And I know, because they told my mom, you need liquidity. You need to be liquid. Well, the banks benefit from your liquidity because they need cash in the account so they can lend it to people like me. So they want people to be unsophisticated. They want their customers to be uneducated. They do indoctrinate in order to benefit banks. And that's why the banks have all the money.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't understand that the bank is using your money. Because I was talking to someone about that before, and they thought it was just sitting there. I was like, no, it is not actually there. They're actually using it. Yeah.
That's right. And I was telling this gentleman that had the $11 million at Morgan Stanley, I said, you understand, you're investing in my project right now. He's like, no, I'm not, Grant. I haven't invested in it. I said, yes, you are, bro. I borrow money from Morgan Stanley to do my projects. That is your money I'm borrowing. You're literally lending me your money and not getting benefit of it. You're a partner in my project. Okay. And Morgan Stanley's collecting the upside. They're lending me money at 6 or 7 to buy my project because of cash flows, by the way. See, you can borrow money on these big apartment complexes because of the cash flow, and it's a real asset. When we put the two together, okay, in the future, I'm going to build the largest real estate Bitcoin fund on planet Earth. It is going to be monstrous. And because the legacy companies out there, the other people that I compete with, cannot build this because they have rules and regulations that prevent them from holding cash and from holding Bitcoin. And so I would just say to all the women in the world, you guys need to get more heavily invested. You need to not diversify the way the banks tell you. Your financial planner keeps telling you, diversify, 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 like something terrible is going to happen to you. Nothing terrible is going to happen, okay? Except you're going to end up, the most terrible thing women could do today is you're going to end up living until you're 95, but your money only lives until you're 75. That's a problem, because the last 10 years of your life are going to be miserable because you're going to run out of money. So the wealthiest of the wealthy do not diversify. They load up, they find 2 or 3 assets they absolutely believe in. They do their research on it. They load up in it for the long term and wait to create massive wealth.
For someone who wants to get in on this, how do they do it? Where do they?
Well, you go to cardonecapital.com. That what we're going to do with the Boca deal. The Boca deal is a vehicle you can invest in today. It's for accredited investors only. It's a minimum of $200,000. You don't have to be accredited, by the way, any longer. If you have 200,000, that's considered a substantial investment. And then there's no other accounting or verification necessary. The asset's already been bought and closed. We'll finish the funding on it in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's cardonecapital.com, and just look at what I'm doing with putting these 2 assets together. So we're diversifying you into a real asset and giving you exposure to the potential of Bitcoin. And like $1 million investment in that fund, we think every $1 million goes to $3 or $4 million as a fund. Now I'm going to take that asset, which is illiquid. You've lost the liquidity, which means you can't call me up and say, I need my money back tomorrow. But our goal is to take that to the public markets and turn it into a stock, build a new company around it. This is our goal, to go public with this and provide investors with liquidity next year. So you'll be locked out for some period of time, maybe 12 months. But we want to bring this to the markets, Kellyanne, and we think the markets will respond and give it a premium. And our investors will benefit by the upside of a startup real estate Bitcoin fund.
Okay, well, I think this is really cool. I think it's really awesome. And I just have one more question. So for someone who might not be at that level, someone just getting started, or maybe, I don't know, someone who just graduated from college or something, what would you suggest that they do, to work up to the point where they could buy in, or, well, maybe, whenever it's on the stock market, they'll be able to get in?
Yeah. So I would tell first, we all start with nothing. So even if you're born from a wealthy family, you're still, it's your nothing. Your dad's money, your husband's money, your wealthy family's money is not your money. You don't have the confidence that goes with the money they earn. So even if I dumped a bunch of money on you, you don't have the confidence. You need to find somebody that you're confident, that has confidence, that's not a con man and not selling you something. So I would tell people, if you're young, look, the first thing to invest in is you. Don't worry about Bitcoin or stocks, or don't worry about any of that. Worry about you. Invest in you. Get great at something you're doing so that you're exceptional. You're not going to be paid big money unless you're exceptional. And then once you become exceptional, whatever that job is, then you need to find, in your free time, you need to look for someone you can trust enough that has some interest in other people doing well other than just themselves. You need to find somebody that truly has a life story that has compelled them to say, I want to make sure other people get to win at my table. Those people are out there, by the way. Okay. You just have to look for it. And I'm not talking about looking for advice right now. I'm talking about looking for a partner. So Wall Street and the banks are, the world we live in of finance is a very funny place. And it's not hard to see that the wealthy are getting wealthier. And it is because there's a buddy system. And if I go to JP Morgan and want to take my company public, no offense to JP Morgan, but they're going to offer this deal to their buddies. They're not offering it to the people that follow you online. They're not going to offer it to my audience. They're not going to call me. I might get a phone call today if I keep enough money at JP Morgan. But if I keep no money at JP Morgan, I will not get that phone call. And you need hundreds of millions of dollars to get that phone call. So if that's the truth and that bothers you, you guys need to look for people that are trying to work outside that system. And there's people like me doing this. I'm democratizing institutional assets and doing it with real people. And so if you're 20 years old and you're looking to get in the game, get great at what you're doing, become extraordinary, start investigating, learning about what asset class you would put every penny in. Because if you won't put every penny into it, you don't know what you're doing. And this is not, I'm going to go hire a financial advice person. Worry about that when you're wealthy. You need to know for yourself that you have confidence in your partner and in what they're investing in, and they have more to lose than you have to lose. That's what I would tell somebody, as opposed to like, do I need to buy Bitcoin today? I'm not buying Bitcoin, Kellyanne. I'm not buying Bitcoin without the real estate. I want the real estate and the Bitcoin together, so I don't have to sweat and look at the Bitcoin's price every minute of every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people come to me and they ask me, am I too late for Bitcoin? Or, or they think they have to buy one whole Bitcoin, or they're still a little confused by it. But yeah. So I really love, what you're doing, and, maybe, we can get more women in there. So far, have you had interest from men and, I'm guessing, women, right?
Well, we've done 12 of these funds this year. I've raised money for 45 real estate transactions. We've oversubscribed every deal we've ever done. No middlemen, no brokers. Charles Schwab cannot call me and talk to me on your behalf. Fidelity can't. The investor calls the office directly, and we deal with you direct, not through a middleman. No brokers, no bank fees. We only deal with regular people. I have big banks that would love to give me money. I'm like, I don't want your money. I want to do this with Kellyanne and her friends. I want to do this with regular people. We have 20,000 investors. We sent out $18 million last month. Every month we do a distribution. And on these 12 real estate Bitcoin funds, we've done 12 of these this year. We have a lot of women invested with us. They love the model. I'm surrounded by my wife. My two kids are both girls. We homeschool our children. And I'm proud to say that I've done my life my way. And when people invest with us, you're a passive investor. You don't have control of the asset. I have full control to do whatever I want, when I want, how I want. And my goal is to do the right thing for me, my family, and all the investors. I'm typically the largest shareholder in each of the investments. I buy them with my money. And so we've had a lot of success with families that maybe have been left out of the wealth game. Maybe you don't have enough money at JP Morgan for them to call you. You're not getting an inside call. You're not getting a chance to get first in on an opportunity. That's what we're creating at Cardone Capital. And we would love for, more women to do this. My mom, I was raised again by a single mom. So part of what we're doing here, it's not easy what I do. It must be much easier to go to Blackstone and say, hey, will you guys give me a check for $1 billion? And they would, by the way. They would give me one check for $1 billion, and then they would tell me what to do. I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do is go raise $1 billion from my audience. Then I get to do it the way I want to do it and share it with this audience rather than sharing it with Blackstone.
I totally get that. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and teaching us about this. And I mean, this is something new and amazing. I think it's awesome. So hoping to get a lot of women and more women in there.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you, taking interest in what we're doing.